Hi everyone, I'm Vone Kevitz, knit and crochet designer for one-of-a-kind makers who dare to be original. And today I have an awesome guest for you, Melissa Dalke with
Hi.
Acorn Willows. Hi Melissa.
Hi, how are you?
So tell everybody who doesn't know who you are.
Okay. Well, like Vone said, I'm Melissa Dalke with Acorn Willows, and I am a fiber artist. That's mainly how I like to describe myself because over the years I've branched out into doing a little bit of everything in the fiber arts. I am a published crochet designer. Um, I've done a little bit of that. I haven't done as much recently. I do a lot of knitting and crocheting. I am an indie yarn dyer, and I've also recently gotten back into weaving. I'm also an artist in other media, watercolor, colored pencil, oil pastels, but mainly a fiber artist. But I'm a wife and I'm a homeschooling mom, and I'm a Christian too. So yeah, I think that pretty much sums up who I am really quick.
Awesome. I always love meeting Sisters of Christ. Always. um, it always makes my relationships with you guys like extra special.
Yes, I
But
agree.
wow, so you do a lot.
Yeah.
You are incredibly creative. You know,
Oh, well,
only because like I've like as a child I did a little like drawing and watercoloring and all that, but I never pursued painting and the 2D, you know what I mean,
yeah,
arts. I just
yeah,
it didn't fill me the way like 3D does, like knit and crochet,
right.
So
Yeah,
once I discovered that, then I pretty much like put all the pencils and all the away. And
yeah,
but that's cool. That's cool to know you do all that. So you have an wait, I want to backtrack. You are a published
yeah,
designer. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I submitted a pattern with crochet years ago. I got into amigurumi, and um probably because having kids and stuff, and I wanted to make them toys, and I started writing patterns myself eventually, and I submitted some the what is it 100 is it 101 or 100, I can't remember right now, one skein wonders for babies, for crochet,
Okay.
submitted for that and was published in there. I recently published my own book, which is a children's book that I illustrated and wrote, and it has a knitting pattern in it. So I've published a couple of things now.
That's awesome. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, that's like a dream of mine. How does that process work? Like to submit a publisher.
Well, for honestly, the first one for the One Skein Wonders,
Hmm.
it's pretty simple because it was submitting a pattern to a publisher.
Hmm.
Honestly, that was kind of a by chance. I was on Ravelry in a crochet group, and I think you pronounce her name. It's either Edie or Eddie Ekman. Um,
Hmm.
she put up a post. It was a large crochet group. She put up a post asking for submissions for this new book, and those books are extremely popular. So I
Right.
knew what I was talking about, and I just thought, just go for it is really all I can say. When I saw that, I could have beat myself up because I remember thinking, all the people that are going to be submitting to this thing, like all the huge names and all, like,
Yep.
so honestly, all I can say as far as the process is for something like that, just do it. I sat down, I had this cute little idea in my head. I thought it was cute. So there was a chance maybe somebody else would think it was
Hmm.
a
Absolutely.
goldfish. He had a tennis ball inside of him, but he had like he was a goldfish, but he wasn't stuffed. It was a tennis ball. So when kids played with him, they could bounce him and
Oh
stuff.
yeah.
And so I looked at patterns of people that I admired, like that I like following their patterns,
Mhm.
see how these things are really technically supposed to be written out, not
Right.
just. And so I wrote my pattern in the style of people. I liked how they worded things.
Right.
So I patterned that way, submitted it, and pleasantly surprised that it got accepted. And so, yeah, that was a lot of fun. And then the other one was the book that I wrote for children and illustrated was a self-published book. And that I had to have an editor and everything. That would have been, on my own, I couldn't have done that. That would have been a more difficult process.
Right.
But if you just find yourself a good editor, basically you get to do the creating and they hold your hand and do all the grunt work of dealing with publishing and just all the layout of the book and everything like that. So those are the two routes I've used. I haven't written a book and submitted into I wrote a pattern and submitted, and I self-published my own, but I haven't written a children's book and submitted it to a different publisher. I really wanted to go the self-publishing route first. It's just important to promote yourself because obviously a different publisher would promote you for you.
Right.
But I looked into it, and first I thought that this would be a better way of getting my feet wet with that,
Yeah.
And that world's a little bit trickier. It's changed a lot. Submitting to publishing companies can honestly be, there's a reason why some of the biggest authors out there now are self-published. They were getting denied by publishers. Wonderful works were getting denied. And I thought, no, I want to go ahead and get mine out there and not spend time. Not that it's not worth doing,
Right.
but I felt like it would kind of get experience under my belt if I self-published first before something else.
I feel like I've watched some authors talk about, if you're going to go in the publishing route, that you need a certain amount of following for them to even consider you, just because for them to invest in that, they need to see what you are going to bring to the table first. You know what I mean? So just on that alone, it stunts people from their creativity. So I'm just glad that you didn't even bother with that. And so funny, I don't think I have it back here, but I did get a dummies book for how to be a children's an author. There was a point in my life where I wanted to be a children's author. There's a child's book in my brain that is with me that has still not come out yet. I think I did a little for college. I did a project of it, but so that's still within me.
Yeah.
But it's so cool that you've done that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So I wanted to we talked a little bit about, but how did you get started on your creative journey?
Well, I got started years ago. I was inspired as a little girl by my grandma and my aunt. They both crocheted all the time, and they would make me things all the time, and I loved it. This sounds funny, but as a little girl, I didn't realize I could do it. My mom didn't really do those things. She did when I got a little older, kind of taught herself her own crochet stitch and started making blankets. That's what she's always made, is some blankets. But I didn't understand that I could also do those things. And even though I wanted to, I just didn't realize I could. And when I got older, not a lot older, I got married young. And right when I got married, my mother-in-law, she sewed a lot. All the time. She used to make she was a career woman and made her own wardrobe and everything. She was excellent. And
that's another dream too.
She taught me how to sew. Things started to take off from there. I used to make my kids' clothes. I have 2 older children that are adults, and I have 3 younger children. We had a gap in between our kids. Back then, I was making their clothes. I started making toys. I started making mohair bears. This is probably the first time I really got into something that I started to even turn into a business. I just loved it so much and kept making them. Antique mohair bears that look like they're the originals. I was starting to make those. we took a class, and I used to live in Virginia back then, in Colonial Williamsburg, and it just took off from there, and I put those in local shops. My mom, around the same time, taught me her crochet stitch. So I remember like doing some hot pads and stuff like that. And there was a bit of a gap because honestly, this that I'm talking about is back from when the internet was just a baby.
Right.
Been invented.
Yeah.
So there wasn't the plethora of information yet, you know, like I couldn't just pull up YouTube videos and watch or something.
Yeah.
But I always, honestly, I'd have to say, I always had the desire to do these creative things. I was very inspired by some family members, and I had this passionate love of history.
Mm-hmm.
So things like spinning, I wanted to learn that so bad for so long. And we went to reenactments all the time. And one time I was at one and there was a woman spinning there. And she told me about a good book to learn from and everything. And so online did exist. So I went on there and I was able to order the book. I remember getting a newspaper called the Ag Review for Agriculture Review. We lived at this point, we lived in a small town. This is probably about 8 years after the Mohair Bears, if that makes sense. So I got this Ag Review in the mail, and I saw somebody selling Corriedale sheep. And I did the craziest. I thought, okay, they have Corriedales. I know that that's a wool breed. I'm going to, out of the blue, call this person and ask if they have any clue. Could they point me in any direction of spinning, just something? Can they help me? It sounded like a crazy thing to do, but it was kind of what I had to do at that point.
Yeah.
And so I called them up and I explained, and she said, I'm about to answer all your prayers. And she said, I raise Corriedales for their fleeces. I'm a spinner. I work in a yarn shop that sells spinning wheels and fleeces and all the, and teaches lessons. So yeah, it was great. I went out to her house, and that really kick-started my whole fiber art, everything.
Wow.
Yeah, so I started spinning, the knitting. She was able to point me to websites that I didn't realize existed now at this. And so the knitting and the crocheting really took off. I learned them both technically I learned crochet earlier because of what my mom taught me. Mm-hmm. But technical and following patterns and going off on my own, I learned both at the same time.
Right.
And weaving came right in as well. Just all yarn came in. So yeah, it just took off from there.
That's awesome. So how long have you been on Etsy?
Etsy, technically I started that shop in 2014, mm-hmm. but I didn't really use it. I just kind of wanted to reserve it. And I've actually done more locally than I have online.
Right.
But I did just, before Christmas, I put things back into the shop and actually got it going. So I've had a good bit of sales actually in that short bit of time, which has been good. At this moment, I don't have a lot in there, but I do have yarn I'm going to be placing in there. The reason why is because I have always focused locally, and I've been doing a few fiber festivals around here.
Right.
So
local, like craft fairs, craft shows, or?
For the yarn, I do specifically like yarn events, and like we just had a big one out here called Winter Wool Fest in Wamego, Kansas. And that's probably Kansas's largest wool festival. There's also the Kansas City Weavers Guild. They'll have where they want yarn vendors, like, dyed. So for the yarn, I take that there. But I also recently began taking it to our First Friday art walks, which a lot of towns have that. Once a month, they'll have artists come to all sorts of local venues in a downtown area. People visit the venues. You get like different treats in the shop. You also get to shop the artists that's set up in there.
Right.
I take my yarn to that, but that also I have taken my artwork and stuff like that too. And I have artwork in some of the galleries around here. So I'm hoping to begin all that. Actually, the weaving, I don't know. I just completely fell in love with it all over again, new, stronger.
Mm-hmm.
To take it into some galleries, possibly teach it at the local art council now. And that I actually want to get into my Etsy shop. That I can, yeah.
That's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Wow, you have awesome. You have a really colorful life with, you know what I mean, with fibers. You are definitely a fiber artist. That's awesome. I've never had the desire to spinning. Like I've never, you know what I mean? Like I love yarn. I love yarn as a finished product. I've never had the desire to create from scratch. I love that you did, like right from, you know what I mean? Like right from the start to finish, and following through on that stuff. Another thing that I absolutely am like fascinated by is your gumption to go for things. Like that is you know what I mean? Have you always had this courage to just constantly step out of yourself? And because this is a big thing that I talk about a lot for anybody that follows me, because there's a lot of people that suffer from like fear of the unknown and stepping out and speaking their voice. But you just like are like, and this is the product of, you know what I mean, what happens when you just ignore it, because I doubt that you're not afraid, you know what I mean? And I doubt that you don't have those questions and those doubt, like you just said, like who am I to be, you know what I mean, submitting, and but you have them and you just ignore them and you go. Like I love that. That is like the simplest message, so hard to do, but it's really refreshing to see you, you know what I mean, somebody doing it, you know.
That
Beautiful.
That is just what I wasn't always that way, which is really probably why I as a kid I didn't realize I could do that stuff. I used to have that mindset, but I don't know. I think I wanted it really bad.
That's it.
And you know, and then I think just pushing and doing a little more and realizing, wait, what am I saying? That's just a person too. We're all just people. Like
right?
why am I telling myself I couldn't do this? I'm going to give it a shot. You know, I just keep telling myself that with each thing. It's easy to sit there and beat yourself up, but I've given it a shot. Not that everything necessarily is always a huge success, but things are, you have, some things might not be, some things might be, you know? And so you get out there and you give it a try and keep trying, and you're going to get successes, you know, you're going, and just like that pattern, that was a long time ago now. I really, at that point, had never done anything like that, but they accepted it. And, you know, I thought, well, I can do these things. I'm just going to keep on trying and keep on going. Why not?
You know, it's like everything else. It's like a muscle. You know what I mean? You just keep flexing it, and it gets easier and it gets easier. You know, the more you say yes, the more you say yes, just like me. And like these YouTube videos, that first one, 2 minutes long, 2 minutes and 38 seconds, I believe, was the magical number that felt like an eternity.
Right.
You know, it took like months of preparation, that even that morning I picked a fight with my husband just to stall that moment, you know, and then it's over with and released and gone. And here I am, over 100 videos later, like talking to strangers like you, reaching out to, you know what I mean, and saying, hey, do you want to do an interview with me? Because I think people would be really inspired by your story. And some people say no, but some people say yes. And it's like, you know what I mean?
Right.
And then magic happens, like, you know, and you don't think about the, you know, that's the older I'm getting, the more I'm realizing we don't think about the failures. We don't think about the no's. I've gotten 20 no's in the middle of my 5 yeses. I don't think about the no's. And I never do. But you know what I do think about that still creeps me up? You know what I mean? 40 years later are the things that I never tried on.
Yes.
Those haunt me forever.
Yeah,
you know
that was me too. That was exactly, and I don't want that. I don't want a life
Exactly.
like that. You know,
Exactly.
yeah, of a bunch of what ifs,
Yep.
and
Yep.
go ahead and give it a go. You know.
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. So what is your big why for pursuing a solopreneur lifestyle?
Um, Really, I would say I mentioned earlier that I'm a homeschool mom. Uh,
Mhm.
Love and it's very important to me. But also, that's very, you put a lot of yourself into your kids and everything when you're doing all of that. And I needed something of my own. And so, I mean, I think the creativity, all the desire to be creative was there. And I realized as I began these things, they were very rewarding for me personally. And then honestly, it was just nice to bring in some type of a little bit of supplement for our family that was also doing something I loved. That was just a really good feeling inside. So it's really just this, it's just nice to have something of your own.
Right.
And yeah,
That's a great why. That is a
yeah,
great especially with my two dogs name who's Indy right now. Independence is down here. That's constantly bugging me, and then
yeah,
Liberty staying next to him because he's a well-behaved brother. But this little one is just a menace to society right now.
yeah.
So, what is your making process? So because you're
um,
weaving now a lot. So, what is your
yeah.
making process?
Well, it can vary, honestly. Um, I will, some sort of inspiration will usually strike. And I don't have just one place that comes from. Um, it can come from simply looking at yarn. The one I'm looking at right now or working on right now, I looked at some yarns on my shelf. They just popped out at me. They'd been there for a little while, but all of a sudden there they were, and I realized they'll be perfect. They're just going to be perfect together. So process. Sometimes I like to say I fly by the seat of my pants. I did in that process because I just grabbed those. That's one of those wonderful moments as a creator that you love. It just falls in place. You grab them, you get going, and it's just flowing.
Yeah.
Now, I have two I'm working on, and they're polar opposites. There's that one. There's another one where the colors are very inspiring, and I love them, and I want it to turn out. But it's going to be a slower process. And I really can't explain to you why. Some of these things I don't understand why they are the way they are. I just accept it and work with them. This one is a circular weaving, and I want it'll be a little abstracted, but I want it to have a flower petal look circling around like layers of petals. And this one's just taking a process where I am sketching things out and such. So I that I may get an idea that comes to me and I'll sketch it, or I'll at least make a list of the ideas so I don't forget them as they're coming.
Yeah.
And basically, I mean, it's just inspiration striking and then doing whatever that particular project takes to go. Some of them I just pick up and go. Some of them I have to plan out in that way. Notes, sketching. And the inspiration too can definitely come from, like I said, yarn, children's storybooks. I can actually get a lot of inspiration, whether that is just something whimsical about the story or even colors in the story. And outside as well, of course. Here in Kansas, if you've been out here, we have gorgeous sunsets and sunrises, and that has inspired a lot of things. So I feel like my process might be kind of simple. There's not a lot of, but really that's basically what I do. What I can say is, and especially right now with the weaving being so fresh and new, so I feel like it's a flood right now.
Yeah. It's exciting right now. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. These are exciting times for you.
Yes. Yeah.
You're in a new relationship again with a craft.
Yeah, definitely. now along with the children's book, that took a couple years. Something that I really wanted to do, and it was very important to me. But that process first, honestly, I wrote, which I felt came to me pretty quick. And the illustrating process, that took a very long time. And I just allowed it. I wanted to get it where I wanted it to be. I didn't want to rush something. Those were done in, let's see, I think I needle felted. Oh, I forgot to bring up the felting. I don't know if I do a lot of felting as well. But I needle felted the pictures. Then I did color pencils of all the illustrations. Then I did ink and wash. I finally settled on the ink and wash. So, a lot of testing can go into that process as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Wow. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Needle felt too? My gosh.
Yeah.
This is for all the people that say I don't have time.
Right. Yeah.
This is a mother who's homeschooling.
Yeah.
That found some time to do all these amazing, creative adventures for herself, That's amazing. That's so awesome. I did take a note from one of your tips there about the making process, because there are some projects where I can be done in 8 hours. I'll spend the night because it's so in me that I have to finish. And then there are some that are just like agony and it's just stuck. I never think, which I wish I was smart enough to do like you, is sit down and make the list of the ideas so that they don't leave me, because I don't think about it, or I think they're going to continue and the list is gone and I never had it. And then now I have a bunch of creative whips laying around work in progress that can't be finished. And when I pick up, I'm like, what was I even going for? Yeah. I don't know. I wish I had something to, like a breadcrumb to go back to. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah. So, well, I made the list because out of that I did the same exact thing.
So just that note alone, I'm like, write it down like Melissa does. And then when you're ready for it, it'll come back.
Yeah.
Do you have any tips for newbie makers?
I do. And actually, I wrote some of these down because this was important. I felt like this was a really good, important thing. One of the first things is don't be discouraged. When you're just getting going, it can be very exciting and things can flood in. But I've noticed a lot of new makers. I've taught classes as well at some of these events that I've gone to. They're not doing it like the experienced person. They're brand new too. They've never done it before. And they're looking at the highly experienced person. They will start to beat themselves up because it doesn't look like this person that's been doing it for years. Please don't do that. Give yourself grace. You are brand new. It's like, look at a little kid who's learning to write their letters and look at the adult who's writing. It just takes practice. It's a skill that's learned. Everything we do creatively is a skill. We are not, it's not just talent. It's not like, oh, you've got it, but this person doesn't. It's this person worked and worked and worked on this skill. And that's what it takes. Please do that. Don't beat yourself up in the beginning. That little kid is going to have to practice and practice their handwriting for years, really. I mean, you can look at the kindergartner, you can look at the fifth grader, you can look at the senior in high school. That handwriting is changing because there's more and more practice. And that's what it is for all of us. When you're new, please don't beat yourself up. Just be happy with be happy with what you learned that day, with a new thing that you learned. It might not be perfect, but maybe you want to learn to crochet and you're learning the single crochet stitch. Be happy that you actually learned the fundamentals of that stitch. You are on your way now. You're going to get there. Don't be discouraged. That is one of the biggest.
That's a huge one. That is a major tip. I'm almost done with reading Girl Wash Your Face by Rachel Hollis.
Yeah.
Did you read that book? It is
I want to because everybody says how good it is.
Every woman needs to read these books. I have Girl Stop Apologizing on pre-order right now because I can't wait for that book, because there's one analogy that's just shouts out at me so much. In the book, she talks about how, imagine a toddler, with her chubby little thighs, trying to walk,
Yeah.
holding on to, the couch, making her first steps, and then she gets from the table to the next place that she needs to go with a few steps, right?
Yeah.
And you as a mother are looking at her going, oh my God, she just did the impossible. You know what I mean? She just took her first steps. Now imagine you as a mother looking, or anybody looking at that and going, why didn't she run there yet?
Right, right. Yeah, you wouldn't do that.
You wouldn't do that, but yet we do it to ourselves all the time.
Yeah.
When we start something new, when we do something scary, when we do things we've never done before, we do that to ourselves. We say, why didn't you run, instead of celebrating the 2 steps that you took independently. You know what I mean? Isn't that crazy? I was like, that just like really like stuck to me, because we do that all the time. We're always self-deprecating ourselves and diminishing our accomplishments because we're not as great as the other person that we're looking at.
Yeah.
Crazy,
It is crazy. There's another good book called Your Inner Critic is a Big Jerk.
Mm-hmm.
It is such a good book. And it's so true. They talk about in that book how, think of the thoughts you have in your head when you're trying to create something, like the things you're telling yourself. Nobody is as mean to you as you are. Why are you being so mean to yourself? You wouldn't say the things that you're telling yourself to other people when they're trying to create. Why are you doing it to yourself? And we need to stop and be firm,
and that for sure. That's a great tip. So do you have any habits and rituals that you do daily? Because you have a busy life. So do you have any habits and rituals?
I do start off each day in scripture. I stop and I read the Bible every morning. I try to, I would say but there are some things or something crazy, but it's a point I try to do every morning to fill me back up. You have to get refilled, and there's no better way. And so that's probably the most important one to my day. Outside of that, I have a schedule that I like homeschooling my children. That's first and foremost. That has to come first. If I were to put that on the back burner and think, okay, I'm going to get to them later, my whole day would be an absolute wreck. Just get at me. I can't do that to them. I can't, that is first and foremost. So I have my own quiet time in the morning with the Bible. And then we get up, we eat our breakfast, and I do school, and we have some set chores we do every day. I have 3 little ones that I'm homeschooling. So our school is done and our chores are done. And at that point I can start creating. And I've really found that is truly what's best for me. If I were to put, I don't know, we're in the swing of it. So it's easy. You get it done. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Maybe, I don't know if it sounds like an overwhelming thing or not, but it really isn't. We all know what we're supposed to do and we do it. And, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, well, that's the point of habits and rituals, is that we are innately meant to be habitual and ritually, so that we're not constantly using our brain to think of new and act of new ways. We are meant to be mechanically doing things with ease, you know what I mean? So the more rituals and habits you place upon yourself, the easier your days go, And I love the fact that you start your morning filling your well before you start extracting from it,
Yes.
And that's a great, I've just recently been doing this since February. So we're at the end of February, and I just started in beginning of February for like 3 weeks now, that I've finally created a morning routine for myself.
Yeah.
I for years have heard it, because I'm a full-time employee, and then I come home and then I'm doing VK on the side for years, and so and it drains me. And I spent last year completely wrecked. Like I didn't do any VK on the side. Like I was just so physically broken down and
Yeah.
mentally broken down that I was just like, so this year I knew if I was going to come back, I needed to come back smarter, you know what I mean? And
Right.
one of the things I did pick up was this morning routine where I finally figured out how to not hit the snooze button
Yeah.
and just start my day. And once I did that, like that was the mini habit that I didn't do it. Like I think the way I failed before was because I would follow other people's morning habits of, you know, get up, drink water, have coffee, get out there and run in the cold and, you know, and work out for 30 minutes and then journal and then read and then, you know, for set times.
Yeah.
And I've tried those and I was like, none, I don't, because it didn't speak to me. And then all of a sudden the snooze button's coming back, you know, because the snooze is more comforting than but Amy Porterfield, I was in her Facebook group for B school. It was just something, I'm already in B school, but I just wanted to see if I could pick up these free tips that they share with people. So I was just in there and she gave one of the best advice is consistency. Was a huge talk. She talked about consistency. I'm like, I need to work on that. And then she talked about her morning routine and your personal negotiations. And she says the things that you promise yourself, but you back out of. And I knew snooze was one of them, you know what I mean? And so that was the one habit I picked up. I'm like, I will not back out myself off of my, you know what I mean? And let myself down on that snooze button. And because that's who I'm pushing aside every time I hit snooze, right? So first day I woke up with vibrance, no snooze button, went right downstairs, made my coffee, and I didn't do what the other people, I just did what I needed to do for my morning, you know?
Right.
And then I opened up my planner and you know what I mean? I wrote my goals. I read the Bible. Sometimes I don't. Sometimes I read sometimes I pick, now I'm up even 30 minutes earlier because I want to work on some B school stuff. I want to actually learn because now I'm finding the benefit of getting up 2 hours before I have to go to work and working on myself. For myself before I start my day, because I used to beat myself. I was like, why don't I have the energy to work at night? Because everybody else got the best of me before I even put into me. But now that I've created this 2-hour routine before I even showered and got to work, it's a whole other magic. It's like I've gotten weekends. I've gotten like, you know what I mean? It's like I've multiplied all this time that I never had. For myself, it was just like, wow, like that morning routine is everything, you know?
It is. It's pretty amazing. And I did exactly what you said you did. I used to try other people's things, like you said, like the running side. Well, I thought I should go walking, like in the not first thing in the morning.
I'm like, there's this thing called stranger danger that I have to, like, there were a lot of battles I had to beat to get, and I'm like, and I wasn't working on any of those, you know?
Right. See, I'm technically not a morning person, and I have to realize that and work with that. Like for me to tell myself I'm going to go outside, and, you know, here we are in Kansas, like it's raining and cold, and we're supposed to have some snow later. This is not the mornings that I want to go out there.
Right.
You know, and that's okay. It is something I want to do later in the day. You know, that's something I want to do. Because being a creative, I do realize I can stay inside a lot. I want to be out there more, and we are way out in the country. I want to try to successfully grow a garden this year, and so, but first thing I completely agree with what you said. That was a silly thing for me to tell myself, to get out there and go do these things first thing in the morning. I'm not going to do that. That's not me. That's not what but kind of, I feel like, I don't know, maybe it would be considered a slow morning. I just get up, I'll make a cup of hot tea, I'll get my breakfast, read the Bible, but that's exactly what I need. That's for me, that's what I need. And then I can get going. And stuff I can do later in the day.
And that's what I'm like. I have these slow mornings. Some days I go at it at like 85%, some days get 75%, but just the fact that I cannot hit the snooze, which I have not yet for 3 weeks straight, which is a huge, huge, huge deal for me. You know what I mean? For somebody who habitually snoozed for three times every morning for the past 40 years. Like, you know what I mean? That's a huge deal. you know.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's, I think habits and rituals are so important. And now I'm actually reaping the benefits of it and seeing it myself.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
how
Yeah.
do you invest in yourself as we talk about our mornings?
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that that's probably pretty much that, reading the Bible and realizing that infilling I needed, that's the biggest investment. And then, well, giving myself that creative time later in the day, that is another thing that recharges me. That's why it's just so important. Maybe some people, I don't know if they see it that way or not, but to me, getting my things that I really need to done frees my mind up. And that, to me, that's a way of investing in myself as well. I'm not sitting here stressed. Oh, I got to do this with the kids. Oh, I got to go fold the laundry. Oh, I've got to go, I don't have that going on in my head. My creative time now really becomes my creative time. And outside of that, maybe just little special things I do. I do treat myself for that creative time sometimes. That's when I'll make my special, I love like milk teas and stuff. I love chocolate. So maybe I will actually save like milk tea and chocolate and that type of thing and bring it. I wait. I don't go ahead and indulge in those things while I just want to go ahead and get my work done. But then it's like I reward myself. I make these little things and I take them up with me and I start working on, like we'll say right now, my weaving. I do my weaving, this little treat. So it's like a reward after your work for the day is done. And I think the kids are learning that as well, which is nice. They're getting their things done and now it's free play time or go outside time or, they see the reward at the end of getting their work done. Also, like card game time or board, like we'll do that together. I see those things as investing back into yourself. It is for me, at least.
That's awesome. I absolutely love that. As a recovering procrastinator, I really wish that I had your principles of practice of delaying gratification and rewarding after.
Yeah.
After the work is done, when I'm like so great at, pushing off the work and letting it nag at me forever.
Right. Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Lisa, this has been such an amazing conversation. I've had such a blast.
Me too.
Honestly, I've learned so much. I've been watching this video, like completely inspiring,
I'm good. I'm glad.
You've already inspired me, so who cares what other people if they get inspired by. already you've worked your magic on me. Thank you so much for doing this. This is awesome. You guys, all of Melissa's links will be in the show description. I'm also going to be, at the end of this show, look for one of her links. We're going to connect to her YouTube channel because she does have a YouTube channel that she will be actively engaging in. So you guys go check her out in there and show her some love over there and subscribe and like and everything else. And thank you so much, Melissa, for doing this. It's been awesome.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yes. Until next time, guys. God bless.
Bye.